Hello friends, welcome back to Cosmopolitan Cornbread. So I am just coming out here this evening to share a little bit of a update, story, whatever you want to call it. The other day in my Monday video, I shared about a very stressful week that I had been having so far. I talked about how I went into the kitchen and did some baking because baking is, very calming and relaxing to me. For those of you who don't know, maybe you're new here, my husband travels a lot for work, and I really hate it when he's gone a lot, but it is what it is. That's just the way life is sometimes. When he was in the Army, of course, he was gone for usually a year at a time. His trips nowadays are generally much shorter, but he was gone almost the entire month of October. The first 2.5, almost 3 weeks, he was completely out of the country. He was all over Europe. He was home for like 2-3 days and left again. But this time when he left, it was for a hunting trip with some friends that, were Army buddies, and it was something he had really been looking forward to. Not only, going to the Rockies and going elk hunting and all this stuff, but, spending time with some really good friends, and all of that. And, he's never actually gone on a trip like that before. And so this was something he was really looking forward to. So I didn't hold it against him to go on this, fun trip. Really when it comes to the fun trips, I'm the one who does that more often, having gone to Homesteaders of America like 3 different times, different events like that I enjoy doing. But Mr. Smith doesn't usually do that. Generally, when he travels, it's always work related. There's only been a couple of times over the years where he's gone on fun trips. But this trip started out fun. Unfortunately, didn't end that way. Friends, I'm happy to be partnering with Sanctified Supply Company. They are the people who make all of those great Biblical Feast t-shirts that you often see me wearing, and several more of the shirts that I have. You can find the link to their website in the video description down below and check out all of the things that they make. And when you shop there, you can save 10% if you use my discount code Cornbread. Go check them out. So Sunday, in the wee hours of the morning, I was awakened by a phone call, and it was Mr. Smith, my husband, Jeff. And he was out of breath, very upset, and all I heard was, "I've been in a bad accident. I've been in a bad accident." And then I could hear a police officer talking, and my husband was like, "I gotta go, I'll call you back." I called my friend who her husband was traveling with Mr. Smith. And I just told her, "Look, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happened other than they've been in an accident. Have you heard from your husband?" And she hadn't. We got off the phone. A little bit later, she called me back. She had talked to her husband. Everybody was alive. Our husbands were both okay. Very, very shaken, in shock. It was a bad wreck. And essentially what happened is they were traveling down the interstate. It was dark. Mr. Smith saw something big and dark in the road. And it happened so fast. He couldn't even tell what it was. It's just there was something in the road. Big animal, something. He swerved to miss it. Just, instinctively swerved to miss it. And when he did, he hit some orange barriers and lost control of the vehicle. Smashed into the guardrail, spun multiple times, didn't flip over, came to a stop. They kind of did the are you okay thing. Got out of the truck and, kind of took a deep breath, and our friend reached into the truck to turn on the hazard lights, and when he did, there was a vehicle coming, and it wasn't stopping. And my husband saw it, screamed for his friend to get out of the truck, get out of the truck, get out of the truck, grabbed him, threw him out of the truck, and right as they did that, this vehicle did not slow down, didn't stop. It slammed into my husband's truck. The lady will survive. She does have some injuries, but it was a really rough day. I, of course, was immediately praying like crazy, praying for the lady, praying for my husband, because when I got that initial call, I didn't even know if our friend was okay. What I think frightened me was I heard Jeff saying that they were in a bad accident, and I heard an officer asking what the friend's name was, and all I could think is, why can't he tell him what his name is? But, I will tell you that when my husband left for this trip, I had a bad feeling about the trip. Not the hunting part or anything like that. And my husband travels a lot. I'm used to him being gone a lot. I don't get anxious or nervous or things like that. I'm okay. I'm a very independent person. It does not bother me to sleep in my house alone. None of these things bother me. But this particular trip, there was just something was wrong. And I was praying and praying over this trip for his safety. And I talked to my friend later, the wife, and she had said the exact same thing. She said, I had a bad feeling about this trip. She had told her mom about the trip, and her mom was like, we've got to pray. And it's like, okay, when you've got 3 different people feeling a heaviness and an urgency to pray about a trip, I'm pretty sure that means you got to pray about the trip. And all I can say is God is merciful. God is so merciful, because a couple of years ago, my daughter was in a really bad wreck. And when I saw her vehicle, it just ripped my guts out to see it, to know that she was in that and that she survived. And it was kind of the same feeling when I saw my husband's truck. God is merciful. And over the years, my husband has been in some pretty bad accidents of sorts. In the Army, I can think of 2 instances immediately off the top of my head where he probably shouldn't be alive. When we were in Germany, his unit was deploying to Bosnia, and in the process of loading helicopters into the back of a C whatever, there was an accident with the helicopter being pulled up a ramp and a chain coming loose, and it essentially having the tail of a helicopter using my husband's head like a baseball, and it threw him across the tarmac like a baseball bat and a baseball. And while they were doing this work, he didn't have his helmet on, and the doctors said later, had he had the helmet on, the impact would have been more severe and it would have broke his neck. He just ended up with a concussion, but otherwise he was fine. He got a couple extra days left at home before he had to go and deploy with the rest of the unit. Another instance, we were at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and it was the first, I'd say it was the first year that we were there, and I was so nervous about him jumping out of aircraft. You know, it's one thing when, you know, you're young, you don't have kids, and your husband's jumping out of aircraft. It's another when you've got a family, you've got little ones. And I was so nervous about him doing that. And one night they were having a jump, and it was really windy. It was too windy, and they shouldn't have been doing this training. I mean, these jumps are training exercise. And when I say a jump, I mean airborne, jumping out of an airplane with parachutes jump. It was too windy. They shouldn't have been going, but they did anyways. And right as he went out of the aircraft door, there was a wind, I don't know, gust, whatever you want to call it, and the airplane lurched. When it lurched, his pack that was on his back, or maybe the one between his legs, I don't know which one it was, got caught in the edge of the door of the aircraft, and my husband was a towed jumper. And being a towed jumper is when your chute, your equipment gets stuck on the aircraft, and you are hanging by the cords, and the wind is whipping you like a flag, and you are just beating against the side of the plane. Generally, almost every time this happens, it's fatal to the person who's a towed jumper. And the person who was at the door, the jump master, saw this happening, kicked his equipment loose. By this point, my husband's unconscious and floating to the ground, unconscious, comes to just before he hits the ground. And, you know, they do, it's called a PLF. It's a position that you get into when you're about to hit the ground. He wasn't ready for that, so he hit the ground really, really hard. It knocked him out again. They took him by ambulance to the hospital. They had him at the hospital. They said, okay, you're good. And they let him drive home. I was livid because when he got home, he had such a severe concussion that one eye was dilated different than the other. But God was merciful because he shouldn't have been alive. And he's had other instances over the years where freak accidents happen, and miraculously he's been okay. So, you know, at this point, we're just navigating the nightmare of insurance. Of course, the truck is totaled. We're going to have to get him a new vehicle. Going through the process of filing the insurance, they need a ton of different paperwork. You know, he just bought this truck and it was financed, so thankfully we have the gap coverage. So, you know, the minute you drive a vehicle off the lot, it's depreciated and you're going to owe more than it's now considered worth. But we have that gap that covers the difference. But of course, they need all sorts of paperwork, and so it's a headache. But my husband is safe. Our friend is safe, and vehicles can be replaced. And, you know, the lady who hit them with the secondary collision, she will be okay. She does have some injuries, but nothing life-threatening. She's just going to be, she's going to have some aches and pains for a bit. But I've been praying for her, you know, speedy recovery, and just God's hand on her as well. And, you know, me being a believer, I'm of course praying for her soul. if she does not know who the Father is, that I pray that this is something that wakes her up and draws her to Him. Because when we are shaken, when things happen like this, I always pray that God uses them to reach that person, for it to shake them and wake them and draw them to Him. But that is on around here. You know, I'm just in an absolute state of gratitude that the Father is merciful and He spared my husband once again. So that is it for today, friends. I will be back on Monday with a regular video. I filmed myself doing that baking the other day, and I was going to share that on Wednesday, and you know, it's been a little chaotic and stressful around here. So I'll share that on Monday, and I'll post the recipe on Monday. But before I go, don't forget, there is a Bible giveaway taking place on my website. Every week through 2024, I've been giving away Bibles, all different kinds of Bibles. So I will put a link to that in the video description down below if you would like to enter. So thanks for joining me here again at the homestead. My name is Constance from Cosmopolitan Cornbread, and I'll talk to y'all next time.